Welcome to the Creative Chats podcast with Mike Brennan. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artists, makers, and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and the story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan. You can connect with me on my website, which is mikebrennan.me. And while you're over there, I want you to check out all the resources that I've created with you in mind as a creative person. I've created the Daily Creative Habit Journal, which is a self-guided journal to help you over 90 days establish a more consistent and intentional pathway to your creativity. It's a way for you to track and measure, to set intention, to say, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to track and measure to make sure I'm actually showing up and doing the things that I have promised to myself that I would actually do. You can get those as well as many other resources there at mikebrennan.me, shortcut to dailycreativehabit.com. Now for this episode, it's going to be a mini episode. I'm going to share something just kind of real timely and off the cuff. There's no guest today. It is me. But I want to share something that I've been thinking about, and that is the importance of becoming a beginner again, or being a novice at something. Because as creative people, we have this goal to get better at our craft, which we should, and to always increase, to always add to always master whatever it is that is our creative expression. And we're taught this in school, we're taught this in classes, we're taught this in workshops, we're taught this in life, that we just focus, we practice again and again, we get better at something, and we continue to master something. And I am all about that. I do believe that we should do that. But also, I think we should introduce things to our creativity that cause us to question, that cause us to wrestle and to pause and ask questions maybe that we wouldn't normally ask. When we find that we are starting something new for the first time and everybody feels uncomfortable, like I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to be amazing right out of the gate for something, like that they would automatically have a natural talent or gifting for something, a natural ability towards doing something so that they can kind of skip and shortcut their way further into the process. But there's something that happens when we find ourselves in a place where we don't know the answers and we're not quite sure what to do, or maybe we know what to do, but getting ourselves to actually do it and getting the results that we desire, there's this huge gap. And so that can be a frustrating place to be in. So I think a lot of times we just try to avoid this situation altogether by just staying in our lane, by doing the things that we're good at, by excelling again and again and again, and just staying there. Now, for me, this is real time because I've had recently a bunch of people ask me if I do live paintings. Now, if you've been following me for any great length of time, perhaps you've heard me talk about event sketches, live event sketches. And that is something that I do where on an iPad, I'm at a, say, corporate event or some private function. Someone has hired me, an event planner has hired me to come in and storytell through my illustrations and digital art what's happening at the event in real time. So if it's someone on stage, I'm sketching the person on stage and there's some kind of quote, there's a takeaway, there's that aha moment. If it is crowd participation and activations that are happening during an event, I'm capturing those things, the crowd, the branding, the vibe of the place, like all the things that would be cues to storytelling of what's happening during an event. I'm capturing all the stuff, but I'm doing it on my iPad. I'm doing this digitally. So it enables me to move quickly through this as far as a process. It enables me to have just a clean interface, if you will, right? Because everything's digital. I don't have to wash anything. I don't have to worry about running out of paint or materials or, making the quote mistake on something and ruining the canvas or ruining paper. Unlimited undos, which is beautiful. But it's all contained. And I've figured out that process a long time ago. And so now when someone hires me to come in and do this, I can do this pretty quickly. I can do this with parts of my brain not really activated because I'm going from muscle memory. I know what to do. I know how to do it. I've been doing it long enough as a process that there are shortcuts for me. And the parts of my brain that really need to pay attention, say like if someone's speaking, I'm listening to what they're saying and trying to get an idea of what is that aha statement? What is the big idea statement? And so I'm listening and perhaps writing something down on a layer that I'm going to get rid of just so that I'm capturing some things while I'm drawing. There's a lot going on inside my head and also just on my iPad. But I figured that out. I know how to do that and do it well and to do it in a way where I get the results that I need and that someone is paying me for. So I don't have to think about it as hard. I introduce other ways of challenging myself in that process a little bit sometimes, but for the most part, it is a process that has proven itself for me. And so I stick to that and I leverage that so I can get the results that I need. So when someone asks me, do I do live painting? I was like, well, no, not really. I mean, I do live digital illustration or painting or sketching. But I don't really think that that's what they're talking about, because normally they're talking about, hey, I'm looking for someone who can set up an easel, have some paints, big canvas, and do this in such a way where there's almost like an entertainment value for people who are watching this. And these events that people have asked me, they've been more local fairs and things where it's not like I'm the only person who would be doing this necessarily. But I turned it down. And then I started thinking to myself, enough people are asking me about this. Maybe this is something I should be open to, because maybe there's opportunity here that I'm denying because I put myself in this box creatively to say, I only do this kind of thing, or it has to look like this, or I know this process really well that's over here. I need to stay in my lane. And I realized that I may be really shortchanging myself on some opportunities and some connections by not taking advantage of these live painting situations. And so someone asked me actually 2 days ago about live painting again. And this time I said yes. And it was a little bit like jumping out of a plane without a parachute and trying to build another plane on the way down, because there's a lot here to gather in a short amount of time and for me to figure some things out. And just for context, the last time I did a live painting scenario where it was like acrylic paints and a big canvas and the whole thing was probably about 15 years ago. So it's not that I've never done it, but I hadn't done it often enough where there's routine or process that I don't have to think about. And right now, everything is new. I'm trying to think about, what are the tools that I need? And if you were to watch me in this process, my painting is not like my digital art. My digital art is more controlled. It's still loose. It's still splatter marks. It's still the appearance of just spontaneity and looseness. But there are certainly things that are more controlled in that environment. But with this, with these acrylic paintings, especially when they're larger, there's something about having the freedom for dipping your fingers in paint and just flecking it on the canvas and letting things fly and being more loose and engaging in such a way that it feels free. That's what I like to do in this context. And so me thinking about what's not only the paint that I need, what are the brushes and tools that I need. There's a little bit of like creative chaos that goes on because I'm grabbing things kind of instinctually and intuitively and just using things. And it's not a very planned out, controlled type of process for me. And so part of that's good, because going into this, it lends itself for me to have to be spontaneous a little bit more. But the other part of me that likes to have a plan has found this a little bit more anxiety inducing because I don't know some of the things. I don't even know what I don't know until perhaps I'm doing it and realizing like, oh, it would have been great to have this tool, or oh, I didn't think about this part of the process as I was preparing for this. So I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm talking to some other people, and I have some fellow creatives here, some artists who were willing to talk through what their process was and even lend me a few things that I didn't have as far as some tools. And so I'm very thankful for that. But I'm going into this very much thinking, I'm going to have this be an experiment. I'm going to be a beginner again. I'm going to be, and not a beginner in the sense of me having never touched brushes nor done a painting, but a beginner in the sense of this type of environment, this live environment where I'm going to be painting, live painting for 3 hours. It's going to be different. And yes, I've done live art, but it didn't look like this. And yes, I've done painting, but it didn't look like this. So what I'm trying to say here is sometimes it's good for us to put ourselves in places that force us to consider things that we wouldn't have to otherwise. And I'm always talking about leaning into curiosity. Curiosity is about asking questions. It's about asking what's possible. And so for me in this scenario, I'm asking myself, what's possible for this? Now, there's also the internal voices that come, because whenever you're starting something new or whenever you're doing something that is not necessarily, quote, in your sweet spot, or a process in which you feel comfortable with to the point where you can just kind of flow into it, the voices come, the voices of imposter syndrome, or the voices that say, yeah, but what about this? Like for me, I like to have art at these events and my books and things to sell. And that's typically what I've done, is just set up a table where I have some of my art prints, I have my books, I have some other things there, and I am simply there to be the salesman for my own work. And it enables me to answer questions, to engage with people. And I've thought to myself, I don't know how I would divide myself, because I'm only one person. I don't have somebody to come with me and do these things right now. I don't know how I would divide myself to be, quote, the salesperson, kind of doing that job, taking money and answering questions and helping people. And then also being someone who's creating live on the spot and doing this. And so that's part of the experiment for me with this live event that's happening tomorrow night for me. I'm leaning into this going like, I'm not really sure how all this is going to go. And there are some people on hand, hopefully, that can help with certain things. But I'm showing up, I'm being open, and I'm exploring. And I know that I'm going to walk away from this experience having thought, man, I really wish that I knew this on the front end going in, because I would have been a little bit more prepared, or I would have been able to get this tool or resource so that it would have gone smoothly. But sometimes you just don't know until you're in it. And then you learn and you go, well, I'm going to make sure next time I have this thing, because that would have made my life a lot easier. Or make sure that as I'm packing things up, I know where things are. I know that I can grab these things quickly enough where each time an opportunity comes up, I'm not starting from zero again. I'm not going like, where did I put stuff? And is it where it's supposed to be? And well, this dried out, or this broke and I forgot to replace it, or like all the things that happen that we tend to sometimes forget about. Now, if you're somebody who's highly organized and you're somebody who is just on top of all those things, maybe that's not your struggle. Maybe there's something different for you in this. Maybe your struggle point is being more spontaneous and allowing yourself to enter into an opportunity where perhaps you don't know all the information. You don't know everything to the point where you would like it to. So the control factor is low and the anxiety goes high. I don't know what that looks like for you, but you do. So the point being is, be open to put yourself in some of these positions, some of these opportunities where you might have to learn something new. You might have to adapt in a way, or begin something, be a beginner or new to something, because it will cause you to think about things in a different way. It will cause you to problem solve and to ask questions of people around you, maybe who are doing it, who have been doing it for a long time. I mean, that's what everybody does, not just in the area of creativity, but anything in life. I remember when I remember that when I was married and hearing that we were going to have kids, and my first daughter, and I thought to myself, man, I don't know how to be a dad. I'm excited, but I have a ton of questions. And so what do? You ask the people around you, you ask the people who have gone before you what it was like for them as the experience and what helped. And people are usually more than ready to give you some inspiration, to give you some resources, to give you information and advice. Everybody loves to give advice. Sometimes we're a little bit, okay, I got it. I don't need that much advice. But point being, that's what we do. That's how we learn. We ask those who have gone before us. And so the same thing here with our creativity, with these new endeavors, these new opportunities. It's an opportunity to learn maybe a new system or a new process or new tools, or to think about something that you do in a different way. Maybe there's something that I might take away from this experience and bring it over to another area of what I do. Perhaps I'm going to unlock something tomorrow night where I say, this is something I want to keep around. Now, maybe I don't want to continue to do live painting with acrylic paints and all that, but maybe it's something that I take to the live event sketching that I do. And it creates a new offering, or it creates a new experience, or it creates a new process or part of a process that can make my life easier. I don't know. But the point is, I'm going in with eyes wide open, ears wide open, and I'm ready to experience this. I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to try and have fun because, of course, we want to champion fun in all this. It doesn't want to be an opportunity where it's just drudgery and where we're just filled with this nagging anxiety. I want it to be something that I can walk away with and go, I'm glad I did that. Even if I never do it again, or maybe it's a long time before I do it again, that I learned something, I had fun, there was something that shifted inside of me, as well as me being able to have opportunity to create something and hopefully create something cool. So that's what I want to challenge you with, to think about maybe an opportunity. Maybe somebody has been coming to you asking you, do you do X? And you say, not really. Maybe it's your opportunity to step into, yeah, I actually can do X. And someone might be able to give you your first time, a low pressure environment and opportunity where you can step into something. Maybe you're giving yourself that opportunity. Look for what's happening around you. This certainly is something that for as a visual artist, there are all types of markets and fairs and shows and things happening here locally in the Nashville area. And I'm very thankful for that I can apply for these things, that I can talk to other people who are part of these things. And I love that the artist and creative community here is so generous and so willing to give information, willing to share resources, willing to actually root each other on, not just say it in their words, but actually back it up. That is something that really attracted to me, why I wanted to move here. It is truly community over competition. And that has not always been the case for me in the places where I've lived. I've certainly been in places where I have felt the competition. I have felt every person's out for themselves. And if I share any bit of information, if I share any resources, then it's less for me. And perhaps you would excel past me, and I can't have that. And so that kind of stuff, I don't want to be a part of that kind of ecosystem, creatively or otherwise. So anyway, I say all that to say people are willing to help, ask questions, ask for help, ask for opportunity, step into things, because maybe you're the one who's blocking your path. Maybe you're the one who is shutting things down again and again and again, where people keep asking you. Pay attention to what's happening. What are people asking for? And if they're not asking for things, maybe they don't know what you do. Maybe they don't know that there is a way for you to link up with them and take advantage of some opportunities. So put yourself out there. Above all, coming back to the point here, be willing to be a beginner. Be willing to learn. Be willing to ask questions. Be willing to do a lot of bad work before you get to good work. That's how we all start. And if you're someone who is seasoned in your creativity, you've been doing this for a while, perhaps you've lost touch with that part of the journey, and it's time to revisit it. Perhaps you have an interest in something that has been a nagging sense that you have been telling yourself not to do this because you don't want to have that experience of being the beginner. And I just want to give you permission, if you feel like you need that, which, by the way, you don't, but if you feel like you need that, I want to give you that today on this podcast and say, you have permission to become a beginner. You have permission to make mistakes. You have permission to ask questions. You have permission to do things that you've never done before and figure it out as you go. And then course correct. Then do 10% better the next time, and then 10% better the next time after that. See where this goes, because creativity is not one and done. It is a journey. It is lifelong. And so I wish you all the best in whatever it is that you're doing. And I challenge you, be willing to become a beginner again. I always end these solo episodes by saying the same thing, and I truly mean it. Go create something. Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.